Hey everyone, you're watching KTAL News Now. I'm your host Anthony Mocklin, and today is Tuesday, which means it is Tech Tuesday here at KTAL News Now, where we'll be talking about all kinds of different technology-related news, as well as some space news that I'm really excited to get into. But if you haven't tuned into KTAL News Now before, this is our daily stream platform where we stream every day, Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. on our website at ktalnews.com, which is also where you can get all of your local breaking and trending stories throughout the area. But on today's edition of Tech Tuesday, we go live to the Apple event that is happening right now as I speak. I got to catch a little bit of it before the show. It started at noon today, but I was trying to gather as much as I could before today's 1 p.m. show. But what I did gather was the reveal of several different Apple products, from watches to earbuds to AirPods and the brand new iPhone 17. So let's just dive right into what was revealed as of right now. And the first item that was revealed ended up being the AirPods Pro 3. Now, these are going to be retailing for $249, and they are available for pre-order starting today and will be available on September 19th. So you should be able to get them within the end of the month. But this was kind of leaked a little bit before the event itself because my Best Buy members ended up getting an email for a $20 credit offer toward these new AirPods, and it was valid starting today all the way through the first week of October. So that got a little bit spoiled for them, unfortunately. But traditionally with the smart devices outside of the iPhone with Apple, they have previously made them available for pre-order later on to coincide with the release of their new iPhone around like November maybe. But in recent years, especially last year when they unveiled the AirPods 4 and the AirPods Max, they were also available the same day for pre-order and then shipped, I believe, the next week. So they're following that trend that they did last year with that device specifically. So that's really cool to see that it's available now to order, and it's $249. It's not a horrible entry point. There are some pretty expensive earbuds and headphones out there that you could spend your money on, but if you're looking for an upgrade, particularly to the noise cancellation feature of these earbuds, which Apple says is going to be the world's best active noise cancellation in any in-ear earbuds, which we'll see if that's actually true. I'm really hoping it is because I still have the very first model of an AirPod that I still use. It still works fine, but it could use that upgrade. So hopefully that is something that I'll look into and hopefully make a decision on. But as far as the watches go, they unveiled their Series 11 watches, which retail for $399. And these have a lot of different health tools that they're implementing in them with these models, including a sensor for hypertension or high blood pressure that is integrated with other smart devices like the Health app on an iPhone. And it can kind of send you a warning whenever it detects this hypertension and say, hey, you might need to go to the doctor and get this checked out, get prescribed some medication to help lower your blood pressure. So we'll see if that actually ends up being pretty effective and working efficiently. One thing that they also added is their version of Sleep Score, which was previously in devices with Fitbit as well as Google and Samsung. So it's good to see that they're finally getting into that and just monitoring, giving you like a quick at-a-glance score of how you slept the night before. If you were in REM sleep or rapid eye movement, it'll give you a pretty detailed breakdown on just how healthy and well you're sleeping every given night. And as far as the battery life, they did say it would have up to 24 hours of battery life, which is okay, I guess. If you're going on like a weekend trip, it's less than desirable if you want to not charge it as much. But that's something to keep in mind. It is $249 starting off. But as far as the newer, I guess the base model of the Apple Watch series is the Apple Watch SE 3, and that one is the base model, and that one is $249. Excuse me. The the Series 11 retails for $399, whereas the Apple Watch SE 3 or the base model is $249. So a little bit more of an affordable entry point for those looking to get into the smartwatch game. And this one had a bunch of other really cool health features as well that I saw, where it had this wrist temperature sensing to see and monitor if you're overheating. If you like to run and exercise, it can say, hey, you might want to cool down, find somewhere with AC and just cool your body temperature because it is really, really hot. It's on overload right now, so you really need to find somewhere cool. But they also have, in regards to the sleep health, they'll send you notifications if they detect any form of sleep apnea. So it's really cool to see it, especially considering that you can't, I guess, monitor that on your own unless you set up like a sound recording device or just have a deeper kind of like a sleep study, which usually costs a lot of money. So it's good to see that hopefully this will end up working long term and notify people in any irregularities in their sleep patterns. And one thing that was kind of cool, but I didn't really see the point of it, they have a built-in speaker in the watch itself to listen to like music or like a podcast or anything if you're in a pinch, which I guess is cool. It's not really like, I don't really see a practical use for it, especially if you have your Apple Watch connected to your iPhone or another smartphone. Or a music player, something specifically for that. I don't really see a world where I guess you would hold your wrist up or your watch up to your ear to listen in on music or some podcast. I don't know. I really don't see the point in that personally, but I guess it's cool. I guess you would rather have that feature than not, I guess. But again, I don't really see the point in that personally. It might look a little weird if you see somebody kind of just like, holding their watch up to their ear, but crazier things have happened. People do crazier things with tech that we've seen. But one thing that was very impressive that I saw in terms of the charging capability was that it's supposed to be charged twice as fast as the SE2, which was a huge complaint from the previous model where it was taking forever to charge and people would have to leave it overnight and still wouldn't be fully charged. So it was a convenience thing where they're finally implementing this fast charging technology into the SE3, which is great for that quality of life assurance. And if you're looking to upgrade even more with the Apple Watch Ultra 3 that got unveiled, and this one is a very steep price point at $799. But the upgrades, in my opinion, I think might be worth it. It comes equipped with wide-angle OLEDs for its display, and it's said to be the largest ever display in an Apple Watch. So it's really, really cool features that are being implemented into this premium model, and it certainly feels that way. It also offers 5G and satellite connections, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe this is only the second ever smartwatch to have this type of connectivity. I believe the first one was the Google Pixel Watch 4, but it's really awesome to see that they're finally bringing that to the Apple Watch and having that type of connectivity and service if you're in the middle of nowhere, essentially. And I believe that with this model, it comes free with SOS emergency satellite for the first 2 years. So if you're, in the middle of the woods or you're climbing a mountain or whatever, you could still be detectable if, in case, God forbid something happens or you end up getting lost or you need rescuing. So it's good to see that they have this emergency service that comes with the watch, at least for the first 2 years. So that's something that tacks on to it. The battery life was really, really impressive for this one. You get up to 42 hours of battery life on this one, which is really awesome if you're looking to do that weekend getaway, like I was saying, and you don't really want to have to worry about charging it. I mean, it's almost 2 days worth of battery life that you're getting on this watch, which is super, super awesome. And all of these devices are available for pre-order today, and I'm assuming they'll be shipping on September 19th. It just says available September 19th, but they are available for pre-order today. So like I said earlier, you should be able to get them within the month if you do end up deciding to pre-order them. I'm kind of on the fence of upgrading with the AirPods. I need to see a little bit more from that if I want to upgrade to the AirPods Pro 3, but I'll look into that more and just give my thoughts if I end up making that jump, but no promises. I mean, it's a tough world out here. You got to save some money for stuff, and can't really go spending it willy-nilly on the newest and greatest tech, unfortunately, as much as I want to, but it's really cool to see that there is that option for, some people. But the heavy hitter from today's event, where everyone was expecting the latest and greatest iPhone, and there really wasn't any like eye-popping new features that were added that would move the needle, I guess, for people who were on the fence of making the jump to the newest iPhone. And the newest model in the iPhone line is the iPhone 17, and this boasts a larger 6.3-inch screen display. And one thing that was really cool that, like I said, it really wasn't like eye-popping, but I'm glad that it's here, is the new ProMotion effect on the iPhone screens, and this allows for a larger frame rate when it comes to playing video as well as playing games. If you are a gamer and you like mobile gaming, iPhone has really been trying to dip their toes into the gaming space with Apple Arcade and bringing these AAA games to iPhone, and they're doing so with this ProMotion where it offers 120 hertz of frames per second, and it offers for a very smooth experience regards to playing back that video and just in a game where you need a lot of frames, where it's huge for PC games, especially for competitive games. Frames are all the rage. If you always hear, I want to get this many frames per second, or oh my gosh, it's only this amount of frames per second, because most games, like in consoles, everything, they only offer up to 60 frames per second, but you're getting double that on an iPhone screen, which is really, really cool if you are a mobile gamer. Like I was saying, I'm glad that they have that feature available to them. And with this ProMotion and these higher frames, it says that it will allow up to 8 more hours of video playback, while compared to the iPhone 16, which is a nice upgrade, but like I said, it's not really a needle mover for me. As far as the colors go, I know people a lot like to customize and just try to pick their colors and look at all the pretty colors when it comes to the new models, but I really wasn't that impressed with them for the base model, at least. The ones I saw whenever I was tuned in was they had this like pinkish purplish one, they had a light blue one, it was like a kind of charcoal dark gray one, they had a white, and then as well as an olive green. And those were fine for the most part, but as far as like the brightness and just the way that I want the colors of the phones to like pop and give you that eye candy, it really didn't do it for me. It kind of felt like washed out a little bit as far as the dullness and almost like gray tint around all of the colors, despite it being a variety of different colors. But that's just a little nitpicky for me. Some people might like that, but I was expecting a little bit brighter and more vibrant colors with the different models. And as far as the coating of the screen, they are offering a 7-layer anti-glare coating for more readability. If you're outside and you're trying to look at your screen, it'll offer that better visibility when it comes to avoiding the glare of the sun or like bright lights or anything, which is really cool if you're someone who is outside a lot. And if you're like, it goes back to the exercise thing. If you're running through the neighborhood, it'll give you a better visibility on a screen. Or if you're trying to watch a video while outside and on a park bench or something, it'll be easier for not just readability but video playback, and just so you don't have to kind of like squint at your screen in the sun, which is really, really cool. As far as the camera, it really wasn't anything special in terms of the specs of the camera, but the features regarding the camera app was one that stood out to me, and particularly in regards to selfies, where I'm assuming this is partnered with Apple Intelligence, but they are having it to where if you're taking a selfie and they detect there's a lot more people in the frame besides you, it'll auto-orient the camera from portrait to landscape mode to compensate for that, and without having you physically turn your phone to the side and try to take that picture while holding on to it still. I know that was a huge problem, and they even implemented a button on the side to make it easier to take pictures of if you're holding it on the side like that. But it seems like that was like a one-off thing. They're kind of trying to do away with that, so where you can take pictures in landscape mode while holding the phone vertically still, and it'll auto-adjust on the camera app itself. And I'm assuming there's going to be like a wide lens on the front-facing camera to compensate for that, or almost like this ultra-wide effect to create that landscape orientation, which I guess is pretty nice. It auto-detects that for you without having to, turn it on the side. Like I was saying, it can kind of, make your arm uncomfortable, and they were trying to combat that or trying to find ways to figure that out, and it seems that they have. Hopefully it works out and it doesn't sacrifice the quality for it, but that remains to be seen. As far as the processing power, they are using their own A19 chip, which I believe has 5 cores GPU and processing power, and this is a slight downgrade compared to the brand new iPhone 17 Air, which is supposed to be Apple's thinnest phone yet. There was a picture of a girl who was like balancing it on her finger, and I swear it looked like almost like a needle. Like it was so thin, aside from like the camera that kind of like sticks out and creates this like camera plateau effect. But other than that, I was very impressed with just how thin it was and just the design of it all. And despite it being so thin whenever you turn it to the side and everything, it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot packed into that. But you would be wrong, because it is supposed to be the fastest iPhone ever in terms of processing power, where they're using an upgraded version of the A19 chip with a 6-core GPU and processing power. So it should be able to do pretty much everything faster than the base model of the iPhone 17, which is pretty cool. The only drawback was the camera. It only features a single camera in the back. If you ever had like an iPod Touch back in the day, it was kind of similar to that. It almost looked like, compared to the base model, which has 2 cameras, and then the iPhone 17 Pro, which has 3 cameras. And that one is supposed to be a huge upgrade. I didn't really get to see a whole lot of that one, but it supposedly has the biggest battery in any iPhone ever, and the framing definitely compensates for that and allows for that room to have that in there. It's huge, and that is something if you are really into the photography aspect and just, I guess, graphic design of like photography, that is one for you for sure. Like I said, it has the triple camera on the back, and that is, I'm assuming, going to be the best quality photos that we have seen. I mean, you really can't get much better as it stands now on the iPhone. It seems like every Pro model now has the best quality until the next one. So I don't know if that's intentional or not. Probably is. They probably want your money, but it's something to consider if you are into photography and you want the clearest, I guess, best creativity-wise when it comes to the camera and editing your photos and just having that creative freedom to tweak it to your liking. I'm assuming it comes with a whole bunch of settings, but the colors of them really stood out to me. Their flagship colors, there were only like 3. I wish there were a little bit more, but the ones I did see were really cool. They had this gray, and then they had this bright orange, and then they had a navy blue. And blue is my favorite color. I love navy. That was a color like my high school and stuff. So I always have an affiliation for navy blue, but I'd say my absolute favorite shade of blue is probably like a sky blue or almost like a powder blue. But that was really cool to see. It's super interesting if you are looking to make that jump. I'm assuming people are going to do a lot of research first, unless you're one of those people who just gets the newest and greatest tech every year and just gets the newest and greatest iPhones that get revealed or smart devices. But it's something to consider. Like I said, there was not really anything that was like absolutely show-stopping, like, oh my gosh, like this is going to set the new standard of smartphones and smart devices. There really wasn't any of that. But like I said, I only got to see like the first, few minutes or like first almost 30 minutes of it. So but what I did see, I really wasn't that impressed. I mean, yeah, sure, there's some quality of life upgrades for sure, but not really anything to break the bank over, especially with, these devices that are becoming increasingly more expensive. And, it's something I'm going to pass on for now, maybe aside from the new AirPods, depending on if they actually are this top quality, best in class noise cancellation, but that remains to be seen. We'll see if they can back that up. But if moving on to space news, we're getting into some space news today, and it's not really some new information in the grand scheme of things, rather than scientists are reconsidering what they previously thought. And this involves the comet, which if you've seen the previous episodes of Tech Tuesday, we talked about this interstellar object that entered our solar system called 3I/Atlas in July. And well, it was first observed in July, but it's supposed to enter our solar system in like November, December-ish. But the first ever interstellar object is being reconsidered, and what was previously thought as a comet is now thought to be a chunk from a Pluto-like object, and what scientists are calling an exo-Pluto from outside of our solar system. And this is really interesting because the reason they think this is because the outside of it was covered in this nitrogen ice, which is typically seen on these Pluto-like objects that are not branched off from like asteroids. They're not comets. Usually don't have this because whenever you have the comet and then the normal ice is melted, it usually leaves that tail behind. If you anytime you think of like a normal comet that's just like passing through the sky, it usually has that trail behind it, and that's usually from the ice melting behind it. But since this one had nitrogen ice on its surface, it's assumed that it broke off from an icy kind of planet like Pluto or another one outside the reaches of our solar system particularly. And this one is known as Oumuamua, and this was first discovered in 2017. And they're calling it a completely new class of object. Like I was saying, it was determined that it was from an exo-Pluto and from an icy exoplanet. And an exoplanet is basically any planet that is orbiting another sun in another system or another star that is not our sun from outside of our solar system. So it could have come from anywhere, and they're saying that everything about it is consistent with it being pretty much a slab of nitrogen ice like Pluto. And if normally instead of like a mix of water ice, rock, and carbon-rich material from these dwarf planets, and the formation of them, it appears as if it was almost pure nitrogen ice that it was made of, at least on the surface of it. And like I was saying earlier, you think of a comet, it has that trail behind it. Instead of just this compact circular core that a comet usually has, it was more elongated, almost like a pancake, if you can see in the picture. It's very flat. It's more elongated than any previous object that was observed in the solar system. So it's not like this random asteroid. They're theorizing that it was a literal chunk from a planet like Pluto outside of our solar system. And they're calling it a different category of an object compared to a comet or anything like that. And they're saying that these do exist. They're much harder to find in a typical, I guess, setting, but they are out there. There's a lot out there, actually, just from early formations of planets, which is usually caused by a cloud of gas as well as the dust that's left over from after a star is born. And these bigger planets like Jupiter and Saturn, they usually cast out so much of this material that a lot of it is this icy stuff that's in like the farther reaches that are farther away from the sun, and they don't get as much heat, and that's why it retains that much and leaves that trail whenever it gets closer to our solar system and passes through, because as it gets closer to the sun, it melts all that ice off, and then that's what creates that trail behind it. But the fact that this had a nitrogen-rich material, at least on the surface of it, indicated that it had a very youthful lifetime. And because the reason for this is because the longer something is just free-floating in space and traveling interstellar, like it usually is exposed more to cosmic rays, which then melts all the ice off. But the fact that there was still this nitrogen ice that was present indicates that it's not that old. And it probably comes from a younger star system And they theorize that the object itself is less than 2 billion years old, so it's practically a baby. And they're theorizing that this young star system is the Perseus arm of the Milky Way galaxy. And the fact that it is moving at a lower speed than a comet would also indicates that it was ejected early from all this material that was dispersed out in the early formations of our solar system and the galaxy as a whole. And as far as the icy bodies that exist in the Kuiper Belt, where Pluto and all the rest of the dwarf planets lived, as much icy material is that there is there currently, scientists estimate that there could have been even more at the early stages of the formation, and that the current amounts of icy material is only just a small fraction of what was originally there. And they said that whenever the solar system was forming and all of these planets were forming and all the materials got dispersed out, there might have been enough material to create up to 2,000 of these Pluto-like planets, as well as 6,000 other larger dwarf planets. So in the early stages, there was a lot that kind of just got pushed everywhere, whether it's toward the sun or farther past our galaxy and free-floating in interstellar space. We really don't know where they went or where they ended up, but they are theorizing that there was a lot more material initially that is not there anymore, but just kind of got stuck out there in the Kuiper Belt and the outer reaches of our solar system. But they're saying like I was saying, how there was just so much of this material that's not there anymore, but whenever it first got dispersed, it could have easily just like collided with each other and other materials to create these fragments almost and the asteroids that we know, like that you think of today. And there was just a lot of material that it was colliding with, and it could have created these like divots and chunks of these planets that kind of floated everywhere. And this is a huge if, but if we're assuming that our solar system behaves the same as other solar systems, where these formations and materials got dispersed everywhere and just collided with each other, these chunks of dwarf planets and icy materials could have easily gotten hit and sent off to who knows where, and one of them just happened to enter our solar system rather than just a normal comet that we think of. It could have been an actual chunk from a Pluto-like planet outside of our solar system, which is really interesting to think about. It really puts it in perspective of what was actually a comet and what probably wasn't a comet. And it, like I said, it puts it in perspective of like maybe some of these comets that we previously thought were comets might have actually been chunks of Pluto from our solar system, or these exo-Plutos that they're calling them from other solar systems. So, and these collisions would have carved out the outermost layer of these planets, and that's where you get this icy surface of Pluto, as well as this object that we previously thought was a comet, but it now that we know what was on the outside and the properties of it, they could pretty much say for certainty that it was not a comet. It was more likely than not a chunk of this like exo-Pluto from another solar system, which is crazy to think about. It could have been from another system in the Milky Way, or it could have even gone further from a completely different galaxy. But the fact that it was theorized to be so young and moving not as fast, it probably rules out the latter in that scenario. Most likely did originate from the Milky Way galaxy and just made its way to our solar system. But it's really, really cool to think about. Like I said, it puts things into perspective of like what we previously thought might not have actually been this, and it's really, really cool. I'm so fascinated when it comes to this stuff. I love talking about this. But it also theorizes that Pluto may have had this thick coat of nitrogen ice that was lost by all of these impacts and these collisions from the materials whenever they were first forming. So, like I said, it really gives you a lot to think about and just what we previously thought we knew, but the universe always has the answers. We just got to go out there and find them. That's the whole point of exploration of space, and it's just trying to figure out and understanding our place in the universe and just how it works and how things came to be and why things the way that we are and what things are made up of and everything that holds it together. And that's the one thing that I just love so much about space, and I hope that you do too. But that's all I have today for Tech Tuesday. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another edition of Wellness Wednesday on KTAL News Now, which streams every day, Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. You can find all of our previous editions of KTAL News Now on our YouTube page at KTAL News. But for now, I'm Anthony Mocklin. Have a great rest of your day, and thank you for joining us.